Welcome on board, everyone. Happy Matchday -1 to you. Very happy one indeed. Adrian, Healey, and Michael Lahoud, all smiles here at the St. David's Performance Center. Matchday -1 brought to you by PointsBet, founding partner of Austin FC. And we are talking about an Austin FC that are in the playoffs, Michael. We can say that definitively. There's no amount of statisticians or mathematicians that can now take it away from us. It is done. We are in, baby. We are in.
And I just kind of have this feeling that the team may have been waiting to just do it at Q2 Stadium. Has that extra shine of polish on the fact that it was here at home that they punched their ticket.
We are here ahead of the Nashville game, the rematch coming up on Saturday night. But let's dive right in with what we'll call the run-in. And the run-in started on Wednesday night. It was such an interesting game to call, Michael, wasn't it? And a final 30 minutes that will live long in Austin FC history, and the way in which it happened was just phenomenal to witness, wasn't it?
There's certain moments that define a team, define a season, and for Austin, subs.
Yep.
There's so many games where the subs have come in, and it's been at Q2 Stadium in particular, where subs have come in to just rectify things, change momentum in an instant, and they did that in the form of a one, Moussa Djitté.
Yeah, I mean, if there'd been any other shirt hanging up there today, there'd have been a gross miscarriage of justice that was taking place. But hat-trick in 22 minutes. What would have been the PointsBet odds on that before we kicked off? Because Moussa has been waiting in the wings and waiting for a chance like this for so long, hasn't he? And boy, did he grab it when it came.
Looking down at the sidelines, you could see a bit of commotion in the terms of you could feel the momentum shifting, and Josh Wolf and his staff got it just bang on with the timing of the sub. I think Real Salt Lake did a good job of frustrating Austin FC. Going back to how the team started the game, though, impressive. Emiliano Rigoni deserves a bit of a shout-out because some of the services had two crosses, one to Maxi Ruti, clanged off the bar, and then Alex Ring had a close-range chance. If one of those go in, I think the breathing room is a bit more, but you have to get it right tactically. You have to manage the game well. Josh Wolf does it. Enter the Moose, and as we say on our broadcast, the Moose did what?
The Moose was loose in the wildest possible way. But as you say, I think credit to all three substitutes came on and helped turn the game. Ethan Finley and John Gallagher played their part. As you say, in many ways, at some point we thought, oh no, is this Portland again? Because they started so well, didn't they? First 5 or 10 minutes dominated that shot back off the bar by Maxi. If that goes in, it may have been a completely different narrative to this game. Alex Ring had that headed chance he didn't really connect with. So first 5-10 minutes on top, and then kind of when it didn't happen, RSL took over a little bit, didn't they? And had us wondering for the rest of the first half at least.
I want to go to a play that I think started the shift of momentum. Emiliano Rigoni.
Yep.
Second half, Diego Luna is steamrolling in, and we were both looking at each other, holding our breath, thinking, oh no, oh no. And it was Rigoni, the designated player, who makes a long run back.
He had a long way
and
to
he
go.
makes a goal-saving tackle.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get that right, might be a different headline we're talking about for Austin, but he makes the biggest defensive contribution of the night. And I think that's what tees it up for the subs to come in, attacking subs. And Ethan Finley, as you said, loved his work rate. And for Josh Wolf, the fact that you have two wingers who give you something different, both offensively and defensively, the consistency, work rate. Both players have made big tackles and big defensive plays, and Rigoni made that.
Dare I say it, he almost looked Lahoud-esque in his precision slide to block that shot from Luna.
Hey, I'll take it.
I remember you doing a few of those.
Yeah,
I do.
No, that was my thing.
So in terms of the run-in overall, now where does it leave us? Well, it leaves us in the playoff, and now we're basically a point away from securing a home playoff game. There's been a series of objectives, hasn't there? Objective number 1, box ticked. Number 2, home playoff game, which means securing a top 4 finish. Win or a draw tomorrow against Nashville gets that done. That would be nice. Then they want to secure second place, and with it finishing as the top team in Texas, keeping above Dallas. We have a 5-point margin over that, and that is something that's really important to this club too. Make no mistake about it. They want to finish above Dallas. They want to finish number 2. It gets you 2 home playoff games in the likelihood that you win your first as well. So still plenty to play for on this run-in, Michael.
For Josh Wolf and his team, you want to have momentum at your back, and having momentum means bringing momentum to Q2 Stadium. Josh told us when we talked with him earlier, he said, we want to make Q2 Stadium the hardest place to play in Major League Soccer, and you only get a chance to do that if you get that home game.
Yeah.
The fact that they're now playing it in different stages is very wise. I think after the LAFC game, there was a big picture, and it was almost a bit disorienting of do we go supporter shield? Do we go playoffs? Do we go home field advantage? Now the mission is simple. The task at hand is game by game, and I think they'll get the rewards.
Yeah, and to get Nashville on such a short turnaround, having gone there, is we'll get into that in just a second. 2-week break after Saturday night, and then those last 2 games at Vancouver, home to Colorado. The players are all going to be here, apart from Owen Wolf, who's off with the U19. That news just released a few minutes ago. If you didn't see it, would be with the U.S. under-19 team in Slovenia. But there's going to be a full 2 weeks of training, a friendly in between next weekend. So it's very much, even though there's this international break coming, it's very much a continual stretch, this running.
Yeah, and you have to keep your focus. You have to keep your feet on the ground. This isn't like the summer window or the summer break where you're doing it to rest and recruit. I think it's more resting the mind than the body, because you have to keep that body, that stimulant of, hey, there's a close game and a big game coming in.
Well, big game tomorrow, the showdown, let's call it that. Are we going to use the word revenge? How about a rebuttal? How about a reversal? It's, the game there 2 weeks ago was fascinating, really, wasn't it? Because you look at the first half in that game, and actually we were, certainly on an even keel with Nashville, weren't we? And perhaps a little unlucky not to be in front. Then they came out with a barnstorming second half performance, and we just kind of didn't have the legs to match them on that night. I get the sense it's going to be a completely different tempo and scenario to tomorrow night's game. The rhythm of the game will be very different.
And I think back to the LAFC game.
Yeah.
Big win. You get a win by 3 goals, and the team comes out with intensity, comes out electric after a quick turnaround against Portland. I expect that same sort of start from the Verde and Black, a team that is just oozing with confidence, oozing with urgency. And that's a word we heard used by the staff, urgency. Are we going to have the urgency to get it done against Nashville? They'll need to have that.
Yeah. And it's part 2 of Sebastian Driussi versus Hani Mukhtar. This is increasingly what seems to be a 2-horse race for the MVP, and maybe round 1 to Mukhtar, but a really good. I mean, there's been a lot of talk in this building about how the team want to give Sebastian the platform to kind of make up some of that ground and maybe turn the tables on Mukhtar.
This is what you live for if you're neutral.
Yeah.
2 of the top players, and I've heard some fans say Gazdag. No. It's between these 2 players.
Right.
The most valuable player is the player who individually makes his team better from one season to the next and has just a direct impact. If you look at the goals, the assists, the contributions for goals, and the high-quality opponents they get it done against, I think that's a factor as well. Both these players have been doing it for most of the season. Sebastian Driussi, I believe, has been doing it for more of the season than Hani Mukhtar. Nothing to take away from Mukhtar. He showed his quality in the last matchup. But I think given the fact that the game was only a couple weeks ago, Austin's back line will have him circled.
Yes. And talking of backlines, we know, one thing we can tell you about the teams tomorrow is we know Nashville will be without a key part of their backline in Walker Zimmerman. How does that impact things tomorrow in general? What opportunities might that give for Austin at both ends of the field, thinking about what Zimmerman did to us in the first game?
I think from the thing that he did against us, set pieces. That's one of your best set-piece targets now gone. I know they have Mahar coming in, most likely to replace him. Dave Romney's gotten a couple goals. But Walker Zimmerman's shown his pedigree on the international level and MLS level in getting goals. And also defensively, their back line without him gets a little bit slower.
Yeah.
He's not the fastest center back, but he does have a bit of change of pace, and his physicality and leadership in that back line's gone, and there will be a massive hole to be filled for Nashville.
Yeah. And another opponent who don't try and disguise what they do, Michael. They will be happy to, play fairly low, try and absorb what we can do, and hit us on the break. Set pieces will be very important to them. We know all of this coming in. It's just can we get that job done against a team like that again at home?
The teams that have had success against them, they match them in the most important part of what makes Nashville successful. Nashville's a very physical team.
Yeah.
In the second half, I thought they just upped their physicality against Austin FC a bit, and given the fact that we had the Portland game, which had a later start, 2-hour delay, and then the Nashville game again, we're going on the road, delay, I think that affected the players a bit more. It's so hard when you're a player and mentally you're going into a game, it's a big game, and then you're saying, man, we were just here a couple days ago. For Austin FC, no weather delay. Hey, the weather gods, we are phoning it in on Matchday -1. No rain, no weather delay. It'll be beautiful weather at Q2 Stadium, and I think it'll be all to play for.
Yeah. First goal will be crucial. Nashville don't do well when they concede first, particularly if they're behind at halftime. I think Cam Kubek came up with this stat that they're unbeaten in the last 29 games when they're leading at halftime. So that I tell you what they have done this year, Nashville. 2 trips to Texas, 2-0 defeats. Lost 2-0 to Houston back in May. Lost 2-0 at Dallas in March, and both of those were that period. You might remember they had to open up their season on the road just as we did last year before the new stadium opened up. So it's there to make it a hat trick again, isn't it?
And I think the biggest difference between when we played them last and playing them now is both teams have something massive to play for. For Austin FC, last time, it was a bit of uncertainty. Yes, there was a lot to play for in getting into the playoffs and the timing of when. But for Nashville, they were playing for a lot. Can you get into that top half and get a home playoff game? Can you push some of the opponents away further down from you? Now for Austin, you not only are trying to get that home playoff game, you're also trying to get your MVP candidate across the line. And there's just this revitalization of the team that we saw at training and in the locker room after training.
Yep. Wednesday night's win, by the way, gets us to 8 home wins to go with our 8 road wins. We've leveled that. Actually got more points at home now than we have on the road, and that's been the first time that has been the case since much earlier in the season, which brings us very nicely to this week's edition of the Lahoud Mood. What adjective can possibly describe your sense of being right now?
Well, I had a long time to think about this. I thought about this after the Nashville game last time, and I'll tell you what the mood is. The mood is vengeful. The mood has never been so vengeful, but today the mood is vengeful. Tomorrow it'll be that much more vengeful. And for Austin FC to get revenge and avenge the loss against Nashville at Q2 Stadium, they have to do these 2 pre-mood things. Number 1, I'd like to see the fight. Yep. Nashville is a physical team. The teams that beat them have outworked and outfought them, which is a big feather in your cap if you're Austin FC. And second, defensive transition. Against RSL, they got back in the game being better on defensive transition. I think teams that are coming to Q2 Stadium are trying to identify that as a possible way to get after Austin. If Austin can really just clamp down on that, they'll win the game.
We're back, Michael, to being second top scorers in the league. Now we're 63, only Philly ahead of us. They're 5 ahead of us. Are those goals going to continue to flow? I have a good feeling tomorrow. I mean, I just feel like that dam has been broken again. We had that little mini dry spell with only 1 goal in 3 games. I just feel like after Wednesday night, you can just feel it in this building. The exhalation is like, all right. Okay, mission number 1 accomplished. Now we can relax a little and get back to what we were doing.
There's so much good that's been done throughout this season, and so much that a lot of experts didn't give this team any credit. Let's go back to the start. We see the story of the match. We'll point to that during the broadcast. So for what the team has done, it's been miracle from one season to the other. And when you start surpassing your own expectations earlier than you thought, it can be a bit overwhelming. Now it's simple. As I said before, the task is at hand. And one thing I noticed from this team this year, they win games in bunches. They score goals in bunches. And once that first win comes, the next few results come after it.
Yeah, it's been very much that knock-on effect, hasn't it? So lot to look forward to tomorrow. A lot of intrigue really in the personnel out there tomorrow. We're not going to get into that today because, in fact, there's too many permutations to really consider. But I think the fact they have an international break coming 2 weeks and then the final 2 games of the season certainly will play into the coaching staff's decisions. But they have some interesting decisions made. A lot of good candidates out there for playing time.
And a lot of good candidates coming back from suspension. You look at the impact of Moussa Djitté.
Yeah.
Not available in Seattle, a player that I think we could have used in Seattle, comes back, bangs a hat trick, full of confidence. All it takes is one game as a player to build the momentum of a lifetime, and you'd rather build momentum now than earlier in the season because you can take that in the playoffs.
It's good to see Johan Romagna getting some minutes as well on Wednesday. I thought he did well when he came on for Cascante.
That's a good shout.
Yeah.
As I said, the physical play of Nashville, you think of a player like Sapong, could he be a candidate to step in? Yeah. But Josh Wolf has decisions to make. Indeed.
Nice problems to have for any coach. A moment of gratitude to finish up with, and how could we not dial M for Moussa for this moment of gratitude? Our number 2 with the first hat trick in club history, and let us point out it has arrived quite quickly in club history to get a hat trick inside of 2 years. The Portland Timbers have been an MLS team since 2011. Still never had a player who scored a hat trick in MLS, so they're still waiting. Plenty of players have scored 2 in a game. In fact, I think it's happened 50 times for them, but they've never had a player go on and get a hat trick. And for him to do it like that in 22 minutes off the bench, first player to score a hat trick off the bench in MLS since, you know it, don't you? Someone you played against pretty well.
Oh, his first initial starts with a C. Last initial,
only the league's leading scorer in history. One Mr. Chris Wondolowski was the last to do that off the bench, all the way back in 2010. So it's a rarity. 6th time it's ever happened in the history league. So we have a lot to be grateful for. And really, his story, the story behind Moussa Djitté arriving at that point, is really what makes it extra special, isn't it, Michael?
There's a moment, and you'll be able to see it on the broadcast, I thought was so beautiful. It was after the 3rd goal, a moment between he and Sebastian Driussi, where Sebastian has a word, just a kind word with him afterwards, and you could see the embrace. You could see how much it meant, not just to Moussa, but his teammates. The fact that it was he who went and did it in the style he did it. All 3 goals in different fashions. The first goal, Diego Fagundes and Healey Cascante. Just bullet pass to Fagundes outside of the foot. Still don't know how he didn't make Team of the Week. I'll be banging that drum until he does. Thank you very much. And just to see the flair, just the smile on Moussa's face, it looked like the player that we saw playing in France, playing on instinct.
Yes. Zut alors, as they would say in France. It was fantastic to see, wasn't it? Especially after everything he's gone through personally this season. Despite all of that, he's always been a smiling presence, even when it hasn't been going for him this year, Michael. Whenever we've seen him here, always a big smile, always a big hug. Great, just a great guy, Moussa Djitté.
And that's what staff members and players alike have always said about him. And to see him come to life and come alive, just sitting down, having lunch, see how many players' arms around him, just so happy for him. And I think that's been the strength of this team. Is it's a team. And that's exemplary of why this team is going to be successful moving forward.
And I'm glad you mentioned it. Just the final thing, I'm going to graduate. Hand tip to Fagundes for the 2 assists on Wednesday night, because he now goes to 14 this season, which is way and above his career high, which was previously 10. So he is having, the year of his career, really.
Well, as you think of personal accolades, does that tip things in his favor for potential best 11? As well. Nice you have to say he's in the conversation, given his direct impact to Austin this season.
Right. All right, so we will leave this with you for today. A Driussi hat trick tomorrow for a 3-0 win. Taking him one above Mukhtar. Can we dial that up? How do we arrange that?
Well, you know what? You dial D for Driussi,
right,
and G for goals. Just talking with Seba, just to end on this, there was a bit of a glint in his eye when we mentioned this game and what's at stake. And he's such a unique player, and he lives for the big moments. It gets no bigger than Saturday night.
No. Hope you can be with us. If you're not able to be at Q2, another big Saturday night game, we will be with you on the CW, starting at 7:30 for the pregame show, full half an hour out on the concourse there at Q2, and then the game coverage starting at 8. Can't wait. We will talk to you next time as well on Matchday -1, and bring on the Nashville-Austin Saturday night spectacular.